Welcome to Grow with Miss Nancy. I am so glad you are here with us while we're still camping. This has been the most fun month. I just love to camp and be in the fresh air and be able at night to sit around and tell stories around the campfire. And we're telling stories about Daniel. You might be able to tell this story right along with me because I bet you've heard it before. This is the one about Daniel in the lion's den. Now, how did Daniel end up in the lion's den? You might not remember that part, so let's talk about it, okay? You see, Daniel had been through King Nebuchadnezzar and King Belshazzar, and now he's with King Darius. He is an older fella by now, but he really is well respected by these kings, and some of those other officials, they are quite jealous of him. And they kept trying to figure ways to get rid of Daniel, but they really couldn't think of anything until finally they said, you know, the only way we could get rid of him is to have something happen so that it's against his religion, because he is such a righteous and good man. He does everything right. He follows all the rules. This is the only way we could get rid of him. So they went to King Darius and they said, hey, King, we think it'd be a wonderful idea if you were to make a law that said for the next 30 days, nobody in the kingdom can pray to anybody unless they pray to you. Well, King Darius thought, hey, you know, that sounds like a pretty good deal. And so they made that law, and King Darius signed that law. Remember, once the king signs a law, you can't change it. Why not? Well, if you changed it, it would sound like the king was wrong, and the king can't be wrong, correct? So therefore, there we go. Well, now, remember, Daniel loved God, and he had a practice of going every day in his room and facing Jerusalem. So he opened up his window, he faced Jerusalem, and he prayed to God 3 times a day, morning, noon, and night. The very same day that they wrote that law, Daniel goes home, he opens up his window towards Jerusalem, and he prays to God, not to Darius, to God, as his usual practice. And those bad guys were so happy because they thought, yes, now we got Daniel. We're going to get rid of him. Because the person who disobeyed that law was supposed to be thrown into the lion's den. And you know, hungry lions were going to tear you apart and eat you up. Well, Darius really liked Daniel. And when he found out that it was Daniel who had been praying to his God, oh no, what was he going to do? He tried to think, was there some other way he could get around this? But once he made law, he couldn't change it. So he said, oh no, Daniel, I'm going to have to put you in the lion's den. They put Daniel down into that lion's den, and he would have to stay there overnight. That night, King Darius couldn't sleep. Oh, he fasted. Usually he had musicians come on in and make all kinds of music for him. He didn't feel like that. He just felt so bad because he really did like Daniel a whole lot. And he was upset and he couldn't sleep and he tossed and he turned. He didn't eat anything. He didn't listen to any music. And the very next morning, the minute it was daylight, he jumped up and ran to where that lion's den was, and he called out to Daniel, 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 did your God rescue you from the lions? And he heard this voice from Daniel saying, yes, King Darius. My God shut the mouths of the lion. He sent angels to close their mouths so they would not eat me. Oh, the king was so happy, and he got Daniel pulled up out of that lion's den. But when he found out that the whole reason that these old bad guys had wanted to make that law in the first place was to get rid of Daniel, he got so mad at them, he had them put into the lion's den. And you can imagine, the lions tore them to pieces. You know what? You don't have to be afraid. Daniel wasn't afraid. Daniel knew that God would take care of him. So he was in there and spent the night with those hungry lions, but he knew that his God was going to be right there. You don't have to be afraid either. Our big idea is, I am not afraid, God is with me. And God is with you, and He's with me. And no matter what happens in our lives, no matter what happens in our world, we don't have to be afraid. We don't have to hear bad news on TV and get worried. We don't have to hear our parents or the neighbors talking about things that might sound kind of spooky. We don't have to worry. We can see things happening around at school, at work if we work, when we're playing. We don't have to worry because we know God is with us. It's a good feeling, isn't it? Yes, it is. And I'm so glad you know that. Well, I've enjoyed camping, and I hope you have too. And the next time you go camping, I hope you tell really good stories from the Bible around your campfire as well. We'll see you next week. Bye.